Good day, fashion friends. So I am in a denim upcyclers group and somebody posted a picture of these purses that they saw at either Nordstrom's or Dillard's or some high-end department store. I did a Google image search and found out that they are Kurt Geiger brand. They are called the Rainbow Denim Purse, and they have them in different sizes, and they also have them in different colors. They have some in pastels, and they have some in bolder colors, and they have some in like an ombre. So after I saw them, I began thinking, challenge accepted. I think I can do this. In today's tutorial, we are going to see if we can make a dupe of the Kurt Geiger denim purse. Stay tuned. Now, I did get started on this because I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to pull this off, so I did not record my beginning steps, but I'm going to explain to you what I did, okay? So, step one, I cut the legs from an oversized pair of jeans. They were 100% cotton men's jeans. They were like Lee's or Wranglers or something like that. I think they were like a size 42 that I got at the thrift store. So always make sure that when you're dealing with denim, try to deal with 100% cotton. It's much easier to bleach and dye and sew. The more spandex that is in the material, it can tend to stretch while you're trying to sew it, and then it just tends, not always, but it tends to become a bit of a mess. So I cut the legs off, I cut the inner seam, the outer seam, and the hem off. And then because they had a tapered leg to them, I made sure that my 4 panels of denim that were left were even squared all the way around. I then cut them into about 2-inch strips going up the legs. I then bleached those strips of denim and got them almost completely white, but I didn't want to let the bleach sit for too long. So I did bleach them out as much as I possibly could, but I figured with the shadows of the little bit of blue that might have been left, because it did come out splotchy, I was okay with that, because then that will add kind of like a cloudy kind of ombre look to it, and I was okay with that. So I didn't make them completely white. After I bleached them, I then of course put them in my washer, washed out the bleach, and then dried them in the dryer. Yes, when they come out of the dryer, they are going to be a tangled, stringy mess, and that is your next step. You will then sit and cut all of the tangled strings and the long strings from the strips, because you want them to be frayed, but you don't want all of the strings hanging out. The next step is, once your strips are bleached and cut apart and dry, you can then either use dye and dye your strips. Now, I did not have 7 different colors of dye on hand, and I did not want to go to the store at that moment, because when I'm ready to start a project, I'm ready to start a project. So I did not want to go to the store at that time. So I ended up using fabric medium and acrylic paint. You mix fabric medium with a 1-to-1 ratio with your paint. Now, I really didn't measure everything exact. I just kind of eyeballed it, to be honest. So it's going to give you a fairly thin acrylic paint. And I have learned in the past that you can use acrylic paint to dye things that aren't going to be washable. Now, if they're not going to be washed, you don't have to use fabric medium, but it will end up being stiff. The fabric medium will help make it more flexible, and in this case I want the denim to be easy to work with and not really super stiff. Next step, you are going to mix fabric medium. Now, you can either purchase fabric medium or you can make your own homemade fabric medium, and there are many different ways that you can make fabric medium to mix into regular acrylic paint, which is what I used. So you can Google recipes and figure out how to make your own fabric medium, or you can just purchase it, however you want to do that. I then laid down an old dark towel that I use strictly for crafting, painting, so that way if there's any paint or anything that gets on it, it really doesn't show. And I happen to use metallic paint because that's what I had on hand and that was the colors that I chose. So I did one in metallic pink, metallic purple, gold, a bronzy kind of copper color, green, and blue. And as you can see, the fabric, it has a little bit of stiffness to it, but it's going to be easy to work with and to sew. Now at this point, I don't know if I have enough strips, because when you make your pattern, so basically what you're doing is you're making your material for your purse before you start to make the purse. So there is extra steps involved in order to get the look that you want. So the next step that I'm going to do is I'm going to lay these out and overlapping about, I would say like 1/4 of an inch. And if they're uneven, it's okay, because I believe in the Kurt Geiger photo, some of them were uneven as well. So that's okay. I'm going to overlap these about 1/4 of an inch, pin them into place, and stitch them together. I'm not going to change my thread color. I'm just going to use white all the way through, just for some consistency and to save myself extra steps that I've already added in order to make this. Okay, I have my current strips laid out and pinned, and it's definitely not going to be enough. So I do have more strips, so I'm going to have to go and paint those, and I will most likely put them in the dryer to dry them faster, or use a hair dryer. And I definitely need more strips, because when I put my pattern on, I have to put it catty corner, and then I plan on using the scraps to make the sides. Okay, so I am putting my stitch on 4.8 because I want a little bit of a wider stitch, and I'm putting my up and down stitch, my thickness stitch. It's normally at like 3.5. I'm just gonna bump it up to 4, just because I'm going through 2 layers of denim, and I just want to make sure I don't get bound up. Gonna check and make sure that I didn't miss anything on the back. Perfect. All right, next row. Okay, here we are in my kitchen, because this is where I do my painting. Easier to clean up. So the fabric medium recipe that I use, that I found online, is 1 part glycerin, 1 part vinegar, 2 parts water. So I just take a little canning jar that I have, and I had a little bit of glycerin left, and it ended up being about 1/4 cup. So I did 1/4 cup of glycerin, 1/4 cup of white vinegar, and then 1/2 cup of water, and put it in here and shake it. Now, when I mix my paint for my strips, I use, for these length of strips that I have, which I don't know what the measurements are, I will get those in a minute, but I use a 1 teaspoon spoon, and I do 6 teaspoons of fabric medium, and I don't measure out my paint. I just kind of pour it in until it looks good, and it just makes it thin, like really wet and thin. And then you're just going to paint it on and spread it out. Make sure you get your fringes as well. So this is supposed to make it stick. The glycerin is meant to make the fabric, to keep the fabric soft, and the vinegar acts as a fixant, which is used in a lot of dyeing processes. And let's face it, acrylic paint is nothing but pigment and water. And I don't know, maybe a few other. Okay, so sometimes I run out of paint. No big deal. So I'm just going to maybe just do 2 teaspoons of fabric medium. And this is just regular folk art acrylic paint. And I like the metallics, so that's what I use. And I'm just gonna squirt some paint in there, mix it up. If it seems a little too thick, which, that one's fine. I'm just finishing this up. Usually it works. It just depends on how thick you put it on when you're painting. Glycerin, by the way, can be found at any, like Rite Aid, Walgreens, CVS, anything like that. It's actually a skin softener. Now, I've also seen recipes where you can use fabric softener, but I happen to have the glycerin on hand. Okay, and there is another strip painted, and yes, it is very, very wet. So it will need to dry. Now I need one last strip, so I just use a cup and rinse out my color. And because there's already water in your fabric medium, you do not need to add any more water because it will definitely make it thin enough. So now my last color is the gold. And I just pour some paint in and until it looks good. Now, the other cool thing about using fabric medium with your paint is it doesn't change the color of your paint. It thins the paint without changing the color. And you can use whatever colors you want. You can use pastels, you can use all earth tones, 3 colors, 8 colors, you can use whatever you want. Like I said, I personally like the metallic colors, and so that's what I stuck with. All right, and now I have all of my strips that I need. That gives me 12 total, which may be too many, but that's okay. It's better to have extra. Now I'm going to let these dry. I'm going to try to put them in the dryer and see if I can get them to dry a little faster than waiting 2 days for them to dry because they are very, very wet. Okay, I have all my pieces painted and stitched together, and I don't know if you can see this, but it kind of go like that. I don't know how that happened. I had everything pinned, but I will say that the fabric has, even though it's soft and supple, it has like kind of a stickiness to it. And a couple of this one and this one I had to repaint, and I do notice that my paints were mixed a little darker, but it's okay. It's okay. So I think the next time that I do this, I will definitely use dye instead of the fabric paint with the fabric, or instead of acrylic paint with the fabric medium. It just was a struggle to get it through the machine, and I don't know if it's because of the stickiness. I did use a roller foot, so anyway, moving on. It is what it is. So I made my own pattern, and the measurements are, the whole length is going to be 20 1/4 by 9 1/2. That's what you're going to start with. All right. And then starting, this is going to be the front. This will be 6 1/4. This will be 2 1/4. And this is also 6 1/4. I don't have it marked because the front and the back are going to be the same. And then the top part here, this is also going to be 2 1/4. Because that way, and then I used a ruler and marked my sections. So the purse is going to look like this. So it's going to be kind of like a square purse. So for your sides, you're going to cut 2 of these, and they are going to be 6 1/4 high by 2 3/4 wide. So remember, this was in here. I think I might need to make that a little taller. Okay, so the bottom allows for a 1/4 inch seam allowance on each side. So I did not consider allowing a 1/4 inch seam allowance on the bottom, and also on the top, because you're going to want to fold that. You're going to want an extra 1/4, and then you're going to fold it down and hem it. So your height is going to be 6 3/4. So 6 3/4 high and 2 3/4 wide. So I'm going to have to make sure that when I trace this, I will allow seam allowance. Rookie mistake. Okay, then for the flat part here, I simply took a spool of ribbon and just put it in the corner, matched it up, traced it, and then just cut the rounded corner off. So that was kind of easy. So I made my own pattern. And that's what it's going to look like, and then these will be on the sides. Okay, next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to flip my material. Now I want to put this at an angle because in the picture of the purses, the stripes are going at an angle. So let's see if I can do this and not mess it up. So where do I want to start? So if I start here and flip this over, oh, okay, that's gonna work. So it's gonna be like that. And then, there we go. So that's definitely what I want. I'm going to trace around it with chalk. Okay, I have my pattern traced, and gosh, I'm so scared. I'm so scared to cut this, but it's exactly, it's fine. It'll be fine. I got this. Sometimes, you know, I doubt myself. So now we are going to cut this out. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness, look at that. Okay, I don't like that it doesn't match up. But it is what it is. And now I need to take this and make a liner. This beautiful green kind of silky material that I purchased for something else, and now I'm not going to use it for that. Once again, we are going to trace exactly this, and then I'll cut this out. Okay, so now we need foam that will attach to the denim, and I will also prepare the foam by doing a zigzag stitch all the way around. So again, I'm going to use the denim, lay it down on the foam, and trace that, and then cut a piece of foam, and then prepare it like I did in one of my previous tutorials by doing a zigzag stitch all the way around to compress that down. Okay, I have my foam cut out and zigzag stitched. I have my 2 side pieces cut out and zigzag stitched. I still need to cut 2 side pieces from what's left for my side pieces. So I'm going to cut 2 pieces for my liner and 2 pieces for the outside, because I think I'm going to stitch this all together. I think that's how I'm gonna back. There's a few corrections that I needed to make to this. One thing I did not do was I did not allow for 1/4 inch seam allowance on my original pattern for my denim and my foam and liner and everything. Also at the same time, I was having some minor discomfort and pain in my lower abdomen. And on Friday after Christmas, I ended up in the emergency room with appendicitis and had surgery the next morning on the 28th. So now it is a week later because I've recovered a little bit. I have to take 2 weeks off of work. And so now I am getting back to this project because I am able to, you know, be on the floor, get up and down with very, very, very minimal pain or discomfort at all. And hopefully when I edit this, I can either chop stuff out, recreate it, who knows, or you just maybe watching me babble at this point, wondering what the heck is she doing? It's not making sense. Before, I've never made a bag like this from scratch. So again, if you've seen my other tutorials, it is a learning process and sometimes you have to redirect if you make a mistake. Okay, next step, I have my denim clipped to my foam. It is the correct size this time. And now I am going to straight stitch about 1/4 inch or as close as I can to the edges, all the way around. Okay, foam attached to the front. Before I attempt to figure out how to stitch on my liner so I can flip it inside out and we won't see the seams, another way to prevent your seams from being bulky is to go through with small scissors and stitch as close to your straight stitch as you can. So yes, that means you might be clipping off some of your zigzag, but that's okay because it's going to take out the bulkiness in your seams. Then I need to figure out, but I'm afraid that if I stitch this, that it's going to be too tight once I flip it. So I'm going to trim this first, and then I think I'm going to attempt to use my original liner that is the same size. I do have the one that is a little bit bigger, and I guess we'll see which one works. So I just want to give you a little close-up of what is going on. So I am using my good tailoring scissors, and I'm literally going through and I'm cutting at an angle because I only want to cut the little tiny extra foam. So you see how much comes off is not very much. And anything on the edges that is hanging over, like right there. So you just got to be very careful, and you're going to cut at an angle to get that little bit of excess foam, and that is going to make your seams less bulky. So you want to take your time with this. You don't want to cut your stitches, of course. You just want to remove the bulk. And you also want to round off your little corners right here. So I'm going to take a tiny little bit from there. Round that off a tad. So that gives you an idea. So I'm going to finish the rest of this and remove the bulk down the other side, and then we're going to work on the liner. Okay, I have my foam all stitched around the edges. Now we want to take the two right sides together, and then we are going to stitch 1/8 of an inch all the way around, but leave the bottom open because we want to be able to turn this inside out so that the right side of the liner will be on the inside and it will be shiny. Okay, all stitched, and moment of truth here, see if I did this correctly. Wish me luck. Put this up. Almost there. Uh-oh, I think we're good. I think we're good. I think I did it. 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 I figured it out. I'm so excited. Now, as I suspected, it's a little tight, but that's okay. That's kind of what we want. So I think my next step is to iron this, these little edges right here, so that my liner doesn't roll around. My liner is nice and tight, and then this will fold up this way with my sides, and then this will fold down. Is it looking like a purse? What do you think? Okay, I'm gonna go iron and I think top stitch this first, just so I can get all of this to lay nice and flat. Before I go down to iron my shell, I am going to go ahead and stitch up my sides, and I think I can get away with just doing this, because then the seams will be on the inside and they won't be seen. So this is going to be stitched to this, and then to this, and then to this. So that'll go like that, and then the seams will be on the inside. So I think it will be okay. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm not going to do the same technique. This is going to be the outside, foam in the middle, and then the right side of the green on top, because once I stitch all of this, it's going to be hidden. But I'm going to stitch the denim onto the foam. Yeah, I'm going to cut down the bulkiness just to be safe. And then I'm going to go downstairs and iron, and then, because then when I come back, start to put the sides in. And let's hope that that's the right assembly. Just to reiterate what I'm doing with the sides, I stitched on the foam, I did the trim. That's the right side, that's going to be the inside, but I want to be able to stitch here. So now I am just going to stitch the liner on, and I'm going to come here and I'm going to follow the same stitch that I did when I put the foam onto the denim. Okay, so I kind of did a practice run without filming because I didn't know if this was going to work or not. So now what I'm doing, I am stitching on the sides, and I was not sure if my machine was going to get through all of this fabric, but it is, because I took out the bulk. Does it look pretty? Maybe not, but it's going to be on the inside, because once I get the other side stitched on and flip it, it's going to look like that, which is what I want it to look like on the sides. So I did this and this, so now I'm going to do the same thing on the other side, because I have a feeling if I go ahead and stitch this side all the way up, that I'm going to have a problem on the other side. So I'm going to add the other one to the other side. Not sure what I'm going to do with this part yet. I don't know, we'll see. I haven't figured that out yet. But I am overall pretty happy with how it's kind of turning out. So now I'm going to stitch this side on and see if we can get it finished up. Okay, I have both the sides on. I am amazed that my machine went through all that, but I think because I reduced the bulk of the foam, that is what helped. So now I'm going to turn this inside out because I want to see what it looks like. Push and roll, and Okay, not bad, not bad, not bad, not bad. All right, looking good, looking good. Oh my goodness. So now, let's see, what are we going to do with this part? So I know this part is going to need top stitch, but I will do that last. My lining looks pretty good. I mean, it's not a 10 out of 10. So there we go. I know the seams aren't like, you know, a 10 out of 10, but it's the inside of a purse, so it kind of sort of doesn't matter. Now I need to figure out what I'm going to do with this part. I think maybe what I should have done when I put the green on, I should have did wrong sides together, then flip it, because then it would have looked like that, and then stitch it down the sides, because this part doesn't matter, it's this part. So I think that is where I made a little bit of a mistake. I'll put a little bit of like a crease in that, so this will accordion fold and come over. I'm gonna top stitch around the top so this doesn't roll. And then I'm going to work on this little edge right here. But other than that, I think I'm overall pretty happy with it for my first time. Now, if you have never top stitched before, which this is kind of sort of my first time, I need room to swing this around. Because it's going to be seen, you definitely want to make sure that all your edges are rolled under so they don't roll back. And of course, you want it to be as even as possible so it doesn't look crooked. So I'm just taking my time, making sure everything is rolled and lined. Whew. That was kind of stressful since this was my first time. Okay, top stitching looks good. Let's have a look at this. There you go. Not bad at all. If I had some kind of like bias tape, which I don't have, I could do that. I have ribbon, but it's glitter ribbon. I am going to stitch the liner to the front. Okay, so to stitch this on, I want to make sure I don't miss any of my green, and that makes the liner nice and tight. So I pulled it up because it seemed like it was a little short. Maybe it was. So I turned it wrong side out and I've pinned it into place. So that way I can make sure that none of this shifts on me. So I opted to use the green trim that I already had. I cut a 2-inch strip and watched another tutorial on how to make your own bias tape. And so this is what I have. Now I'm going to stitch that all the way around. Okay, so at this point I am stitching on my flat magnetic closure to the body. I measured from side to side. It was 9 inches and 4.5 is the center. And then I will figure out where the top portion goes and stitch that on as well. Okay, so I figured out how I am going to put my attachment on. So this is what is left of the bias tape that I made for the trim. So I'm going to stitch this together and make 2 little loops, and I have rings that I will put into the loops, and then I will stitch them into the purse when I go to bring this in just a little bit. So I'm going to stitch it into the top portion with a little loop so that I can hook a chain to it. So I have these little silver jump rings. So I took what was left of the binding stitch or binder that I made, and I'm just going to add this on here. I'm gonna give it a little stitch and then I'm gonna sew it into the purse. Okay, so I'm going to stick it on the inside and then stitch that little dart in here that I had, and then that will give me something for this to hang on to, for a chain to clip onto. Okay, nice and secure, stitched in. I did a double stitch actually, so I have my little tabs for a chain. So let's try it out. I happen to snag this one from a purse that I happen to have on hand because I did not have an extra chain. It isn't silver, but it's going to complete the look and give you the full vision. So there it is. The Kurt Geiger striped denim dupe. Completely made from scratch. As you saw, I did have some struggles a little bit, again, because I'm trying to do this from scratch. I'm very new to purse making and I've only acquired a little bit of knowledge. So my takeaways from this experience are as follows. So when sewing the liner to the foam, and I left this bottom part open and sewed the top. If I were to do this again, I would stitch across the bottom and I would leave this open, and I would have extra on the top so that I could fold it under and then do my top stitching here. So I would reverse and leave this open and sew up the bottom, which will then be the front of the purse, if that makes sense. When I was sewing the sides, the next time what I would do is I will take my sides, I will put my liner material right sides together, then flip it over, and then stitch all the way around. Or what I would do is put them right sides together. I think I said that right the first time. Right sides together, stitch up both sides and across the top, leaving the bottom open, and then flipping it and then finishing the stitch. So it will be a little cleaner on the inside, and it'll be cleaner on the top, and I won't need a bias tape trim to cover up. So that was basically to cover up a mistake, and because I did not want to tear it all out and do it again. Another takeaway is, instead of using fabric medium and hand painting the denim strips, I would definitely use dye. At the time that I started the project, I did not have the dye on hand, and I just was eager to get started, and I did not feel like going to the craft store and buying more stuff. I'm always trying to use what I have on hand. So if I were to do this again and do it better, then I would definitely use dye instead of painting the denim. So the question is, would I make this again? Maybe. It was a lot of work, it was a lot of frustration, but I did learn a lot, and hopefully the next time I do maybe do this, it will be better, because I did learn some things and I made some notes. So tell me in the comments, would you try making this bag? As always, thank you for watching, thank you for hanging out with me. I appreciate each and every one of you. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And as always, love, peace, and thrift, and we'll catch you
on the flip side.